Hey guys, happy Tuesday night, January 19th. So I wanted to share a couple of things about some of the lessons we learned in 2020. There were a lot of lessons we learned in 2020, including there's no such thing as more toilet paper. But there were also a lot that were real estate related, and I wanted to just go through the top five that I came up with here in 2020, top five lessons I've learned. I'm Anthony Delicandro, Compass Real Estate. I'm going to share my screen and go through what I put together. So 2020 started off, the first thing probably I think that was apparent to us was that a pandemic was not going to slow down the real estate market. When statewide quarantine swept through the nation early in the year, what ordinarily would have been a strong spring was literally brought to a grinding halt, but it did not halt the real estate markets. It merely slowed down the activity that we experienced in spring, and in a lot of ways pushed that into the summer, is what most of the areas of the country had experienced. Number two, home has never been more important, right? Nothing can make you appreciate your home other than being stuck in it, and that's exactly what we experienced. If it wasn't for the demand and people that found that they wanted, either newer space, larger space, better outdoor space, work from home space, whatever it was that was important about their homes, if they weren't making moves, which millions of people moved in 2020, they were making improvements to the existing homes that they were in. We also saw enormous amounts of renovations take place, improvements in indoor and outdoor spaces alike in 2020. So number four, home's never been more important. Number three, a recession, right? A little bit different than pandemic, because we entered a recession that, if you remember some of the content that I was sharing back in the spring, it was not a recession that was caused by financial failure in any way, but more so a structured and intentional slowdown of the economy, which pushed us into recession, that was meant to wind back up once publicly it became more safe. We're obviously in a difficult period again as we begin 2021 from a safety standpoint, and certainly far from out of the woods with this pandemic. But the reality is the recession did not automatically mean a housing crisis. That was definitely a big lesson that we were reminded of in 2020. Number two, and this is big, the suburban shift is happening. There's a big movement from densely populated markets around the country into nearby suburban communities. In some cases, just outside city centers. And in other parts of the country, like what we're experiencing in southern New Jersey, we're seeing people willing to be an hour and a half to, in some cases, 2 hours away from where their office might ordinarily be, because as our society moves into a higher percentage that are permanently in a maybe not full-time work from home, but at least a significant portion of their work time working from home, they're finding themselves able to work in more remote locations where they may be traveling to the office instead of 5 days a week, maybe once, maybe 3 times a month, 2 or 3 times a month. In those cases, they're considering some of these more remote locations for housing. That's number two, the suburban shift. Number one, we have to stay up on the market. This was the reality. When everything started happening in the spring, there were lots of questions. We didn't know exactly what was going to happen from a real estate standpoint. Obviously, consumers didn't. And all of the news that we were seeing during that time was kind of crazy in terms of what kind of reaction the market was going to see to the pandemic and its economic impact. During that time, I switched the market reports that previously I was only really doing quarterly. I switched to a week-to-week trends report to share exactly what was happening with listings coming onto the market, contracts that were being written week to week, and it ultimately provided us with the ability to communicate that the trends that we were seeing, the market didn't come to a grinding halt like what was feared. In fact, the opposite. We had a delay for those first couple weeks in spring, but then once people started to feel a little bit more safe as we got into May and June, the sales that would ordinarily have created in the spring ultimately just happened in the summer. In fact, we were back to relatively even level of sales by the time we hit fall, and we actually ended the year in southern New Jersey up year over year. In some markets, in some areas of southern New Jersey, we were up 2%, and others we were up as much as 5% year over year in terms of total sales. At the end of the day, it was important to stay on top of market conditions so that we could communicate the right advice ultimately to our sellers. As we move forward and look into 2021, the same trends need to continue. That's exactly why we follow the market as closely as we do, so that we can communicate the right advice. I'm in the process of concluding our fourth quarter market report, and recently had shared our absorption report, which is where we identify the rate at which homes are selling, right, and give our prediction as to where we think prices are going to go as we move into 2021 based upon that supply-demand balance, right? How much demand there is in the market from buyers versus how much supply is currently available. So a little bit later this week, I'm going to have those reports completed. I'm going to share them and go over exactly what our forecast is for the balance of the first quarter and moving into the second quarter. Any questions, as always, please reach out. We look forward to the information that we provide being the most valuable for you and your family to make the right decisions here and always. Have a great rest of your evening. Any questions, be in communication. I'll be here, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you.